Story 1. X told me that I was embarrassing her when I was in a Crohn's disease flare-up. I had to stop in the middle of a store when the pain got too bad to keep walking. I had to keep doing that, and she started arguing with me. Get up and be a man. You're embarrassing me. That is what I remember hearing in the midst of some of the worst pain I have ever experienced. Lowest blow at the lowest of times. Story 2. I was in a terrible car accident that almost killed me. I was lucky to walk away not paralyzed as well. After the accident, I called her, lying on the street asking to be with me while I was with the paramedics. I really can't recall the 30 minutes after the accident. During that time, I lost it all. My condominium, work, and savings, and I couldn't finish my final year as an undergraduate. Plus, the attorney involved sold me out, and I received a Bachelor of Science and a very low settlement. I was at my lowest with no help and no money, and I even asked her to help. Her response was, "I'm not ready to go back to the workforce." That same day, we argued about her lack of effort as I supported her to finish her degree and was even helping her find work. She then responded, "That night when you called me after the accident, you were in pain and sounded like a little girl. In fact, a little coward who couldn't handle the situation. That month, I mustered the strength and will to find work and spoke with the university to assist with my final year. I ended the relationship after her comments. She was shocked as she was hoping to bank off any settlement I was supposed to receive. After the breakup, she started to cry and told me, "I wasted 2 years with you. I had other guys chasing me nonstop." I told her goodbye and to move on. I have never spoken to her since, and good riddance. Story 3. Who do you think the police will believe? You or me? An ex who was mad at me and wouldn't leave my apartment after a fight in the early 20s. She had told me how she was raped before. I watched everything she ever told me dissolve into an ether of lies. Story 4. She said that if I left, she would sleep with all my friends. It completely destroyed my world and made me unable to trust anyone I talked to because I never knew if any of them had been with her and were lying. Story 5. My dad has had dementia for 15 years. My girlfriend of 10 years wanted to move states away. I wanted to as well, but always had one foot out of the door, worried to leave my dad. I expressed this to her. She then said, "So are we just waiting for your dad to die before we do anything now?" She ended up breaking up with me and moved to that state. 5 months later, and my dad is now on hospice and going to die here in the next few days. Been a fun 2024 for sure. Story 6. During a moment of drama, my girlfriend was punching herself and then grabbed a razor blade to cut herself, which she used to do before we met. I wrestled her and punched her arm, the one holding the razor, in order for her to drop the razor blade. Later, during an argument, she used that example to point out I had once used physical violence against her. I really did not know how to react to that. Story 7. I was a couple of months into being unemployed from being laid off. My significant other and I had gotten into a disagreement about something, and it escalated to the point where we were talking about breaking up. She then told me, "You're a loser, and you will always be a loser." Story 8. I'm not going to be with someone that assaults women. Referring to an incident where she came home drunk, picked a fight, punched me in the face multiple times until I grabbed her and held her down. I didn't assault you. I kept you from punching over and over again. You never put your hands on a woman. That's just the law. Story 9. I had just started dating again after a pretty harsh breakup where she had cheated and really caused a lot of issues as a result. My ex asked me to cover the costs of her taking a weekend vacation to de-stress. I thought I was going, but she asked me not to. She invited a coworker and cheated with him on my dime. I started dating this new girl, and after about a month, she did a 180 and went from being sweet and caring to extremely demanding and pushy. I didn't give in, and we started arguing regularly. At one point, about 6 weeks in, she wanted me to buy her a vacation with her sister. She knew how my last relationship ended. When I said that I wasn't going to do that because we hadn't been dating long enough for me to cover a vacation, and if I was going to cover it, I was going to go too. She said, "No wonder she cheated on you, you're stingy as hell." We broke up on the spot. Story 10. I once had an ex tell me during a breakup talk, You're not a good person who does bad things. You're a bad person who does good things. It shattered my view of myself. I realized she was right, and I had gut-wrenching and brain-shattering waves of guilt and shame that lasted solidly for a year, but I put that energy into turning my life completely around to the best of my ability. I haven't cheated on, lied to, hidden anything, or otherwise dishonored any significant other in nearly 7 years. But hey, what are your teens and early 20s for if not mistakes? I still feel guilt and shame about it occasionally, even years later. Story 11. My girlfriend at the time was doing some disrespectful things in the relationship, going out all night without me, hanging out alone with very questionable men, and blowing me off almost all the time. Over the course of a month, I basically reached my limit and we got into a fight. I was expecting her to say she was cheating or insult me somehow, but it hit me that I was basically just giving her food and a place to stay. In the middle of the argument, I just stopped and asked her if this relationship was even worth it to her. I was trying to give her a safe way out and end the argument. She deadpan said to me, "You aren't worth it." That one stung, and it wasn't even really what I asked, but I guess I got an answer. She left, and I left all her stuff in my driveway the next day and just blocked her. I didn't answer any random calls or texts from her friends. I'm assuming she came back to talk to me or to grab her stuff, but it wasn't there when I got back from work the next day. Thank goodness I haven't seen or heard from her since. Story 12. Tried to tell her I was at my end and going suicidal from stress and needed her to help with more household chores. She was doing 0 at the time. That's your problem and not mine. Grow up and get over it. Story 13. Ex-wife and I had a pregnancy scare, and she ended up having an early-term miscarriage. My dad wasn't the best. I had my son at 17 and was a single dad raising him until I met her. Being a good dad was and is incredibly important to me and something I feel insecure about. A few weeks after the miscarriage, we were both torn up about it. She said, "I'm glad I had a miscarriage. I would never want to have a kid with a bad dad like you. I prayed it would happen." Story 14. During arguments, she would repeatedly tell me to kill myself. She would say the insurance would be the best thing for her and my 2 daughters. I tried a few times over the 17 years we were together. I left 6.5 years ago and married an amazing woman 3 years ago. Story 15. I hope that you die of lung cancer. During an argument about my smoking, eventually I was able to quit and I've been nicotine-free in all forms for about 8 years now. Story 16. After having struggled with unemployment, you offer no promise of stability or security. In all fairness, she called many years later to apologize and confess that the real reason she wanted to break up was jealousy. Story 17. Former girlfriend, now wife of 12 years. We were angry and being mean to each other as barely 20-something-year-olds might be in a heated argument. She said, "Why? Because you're just like your father." Knowing full well my father had been highly abusive to myself, my brother, and worst of all, my late mother. My mother took a large brunt of my father's rage to protect my older brother and me from the physical abuse that was sure to follow his lost temper and angry outbursts. I had never laid hands on her, and when she said that, it didn't just take the wind out of my sails. It completely stopped me, drained the anger out of me, and I was just hurt. She knew she had messed up badly, because I went full stoic, gathered my things, stopped responding to her, and by the time I was heading to my truck, she was begging me not to go and was trying to physically stop me from leaving. I honestly don't recall if I ended up staying or not, but I did tell her that if she ever made a similar comment like that again, I'd cut her off for good and without discussion. That comparison has never once been brought up again in our arguments. My wife is my best friend, my love, and the mother to my beautiful son. We have grown a tremendous amount as a couple, but I definitely hate that memory. Story 18. My therapist encouraged me to tell my ex-wife about my childhood trauma. The first conversation went fine. I waited a while and told her about a second story where my sister accused me of lying for my mom. Drugs are bad, folks. My sister had every right to believe I was lying with the information she had, but I was actually telling the truth. One day later, she threw that in my face. I shut down right there. "See, you never want to talk about anything. Well, why would I? Story 19. That I was always following orders from my parents because I bought emergency plane tickets to see my grandmother who was in the hospital after a heart attack. She also got mad anytime we were cooking because I was doing it wrong even though she didn't really know any actual cooking technique. Somehow, that relationship lasted another 3 years. Story 20. I think I've been pretty lucky with women, I guess. Nothing really said, but there have definitely been times where young and dumb me put up with things I absolutely shouldn't have. I did tell an ex one time she looked like Beetlejuice, and I meant it from an absolutely cool and awesome perspective. I was genuinely excited about it. It wasn't during a fight. She was wearing a black and white striped shirt that she looked sexy and good in, and to be honest, I wanted a similar shirt. Holy hell, I dug a grave for myself that night. Story 21. I should have listened to my gut when you asked me to marry you. Me too, girl. Me too. Happy to report she's now a bitter ex. And I'm happily remarried and enjoying every moment of my 50-50 custody of the kids. Story 22. After I foolishly asked to see her again, my ex accepted, to my surprise. It was after a very chaotic breakup. As we were talking, I realized video game music was playing in the background. Not the kind of music she usually listened to. When I asked her about it, she told me casually that it was a playlist one of my best friends had made for her. I was shocked. I had no idea they were even talking to each other. I expressed my surprise and she said, still casually, my friend's name is everything I've ever been looking for in a man. Story 23. That we will live separate lives but co-parent our children. Ever since then, I have told her that if she wants that kind of arrangement, she should serve me papers. The only thing that kept me from proceeding with doing that myself is that she blacked out during the argument. She was sober the whole time, but she blacks out when her emotions get too high. Story 24. My ex-wife called me a narcissist. That really shook me and made me analyze my life. I have talked about it in therapy. My therapist and others in my life have assured me I'm not a narcissist, but it's still in the back of my head occasionally. Story 25. That I abused her for 4.5 years. She said this while she was moving out a full 5 months after I ended the relationship during which I had let her live with me rent-free while she found a new place to live. In reality, I broke up with her because she finally told me I wasn't worthy of her love. She hated me for my success, taunted me for my failures, laughed in the face of my frustrations, and created an argument whenever possible. I stuck with her for 7 years because we had a child together. When she said I wasn't worthy of her affections, I ended things the next week after doing some deep soul searching. I realized I couldn't see a future with her where I was happy. Good to let it out. Story 26. When I was young, my dad's favorite thing to call me was stupid. It's a big trigger for me now. I'm not a rocket scientist or anything, but I'm a far cry from stupid. My wife called me stupid once. And not you're acting stupid. Just you are a stupid man. I didn't talk to her for 2 days. Story 27. I was one of 2 in the womb. My twin never made it. After a fight, an ex yelled out, "It has got to suck being your parents and knowing the good son died that day." Story 28. The other way around, my ex was a convict in trouble, but he wasn't inherently a bad person. Definitely a jerk, but nuanced and was a good person behind his anger issues. We got into one of many fights about Lord knows what now, and while he escalated to almost getting physical, I threw a teapot set on the ground he'd bought me for my birthday. This big burly guy, twice my size, in all his fury, started tearing up because he used the last of his $50 or so to buy it for me while he was struggling. I said I didn't care out of spite and anger, but I did. I think about that moment a lot. For as much of a jerk as he was, it was moments like that where I'm reminded there's more to people than black and white, good or bad. All shades of gray. Story 29. My ex and I had a miscarriage, and it hurt like hell. I was too young to be a father, but I was so excited. And she knew this, so when we would argue, she would use it against me. I guess just to cause that emotional damage. The day we broke up, we had an argument. During this argument, she told me she was glad she had a miscarriage because I did not deserve to be a father. So I ended it. Now, a little over 10 years later, I am married to the love of my life with two beautiful kids, and they are my entire world. Story 30. I wish you would kill yourself. It would solve all my problems. I ended up inpatient for suicide as a result. She called me in the hospital and taunted me that I hadn't gone through with it, saying that I was just trying to get pity from people. The thing is, I didn't want anyone to know I was in the hospital. She spread that around about me to her friends. Story 31. She cheated on me by making out with a guy she was interested in. I told her she cheated on me. She said, "No, we never had sex. We just made out." So I said, "Yeah, but you're probably going to have sex with him, huh?" And she responded with, "Well, yeah, probably." Ouch. We broke up right after that. Also, making out is definitely still cheating. She claims it's not cheating. And she did have sex with him the next day on Halloween. Oh hey, it's my 3-year anniversary of being cheated on.